Wait, don't file your taxes? Is that what you've been hearing? Are you worried about filing your tax return? Well, stay with me. We're going to go over this and make sure that you can make the right decision this year. Okay, so here we are, a week into the tax season, and Congress is still trying to decide what the rules are going to be for taxes. Isn't this wonderful? We've been here before. So I just want to give you my thoughts on it, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's in the bill, and then hopefully you can decide from there if it makes sense for you to wait to file your taxes. So to start with, the bill was passed on January 29th, and the big thing that a lot of people are worried about is the child tax credit, but there's a lot of other things involved in this. Problem is, so far, at least to the best of my knowledge, the Senate still has not picked this bill up. Here we are on Thursday. They go on a 2-week break next week. So if they don't get this done in the next day or so, we could be looking at 3 weeks from now before they get it passed. Then once they get it passed, the IRS has to update their forms, and then the tax software has to update theirs. And I think that process will go fairly quickly. Can't say for sure. But do we really need to wait until the end? Well, stay with me. We're going to go through this bill pretty quickly, just try to give you the high points, talk about a couple things that are going on right now and a few other bills that may be of importance to you. And then at the end, I'll give you my opinion on whether you should wait or not. So let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so the bill in question is the Tax Relief for American Families and Workers Act of 2024. And it went through the House without any changes. The problem is that there's a lot of resistance in the Senate to multiple pieces in there. So I'm not going to worry too much about that because we don't know for sure what they're going to do. But I'm going to go through what it does currently say, and then you can decide with me there at the end if it makes sense to wait. The core of this for most of you is the child tax credit. The child tax credit, they did not bump that up. There's some confusion on that, thinking they raised the child tax credit. That's not the case. Child tax credit is still $2,000. What they did do is raise the additional child tax credit, and they raised it from $1,600 to $1,800, and then they also changed the way that is calculated. So if you don't have enough taxable income to use up the full $2,000 of child tax credit, the IRS allows you to get a refundable portion, much like the earned income credit of the child tax credit. So for those of you who get the refundable portion, this impacts you potentially. But if you're able to use up the full child tax credit at the top, stop right now. You don't have to worry about it. It's not going to impact you. You're already getting the full child tax credit, and it's not going up. So for you like that, you're done. Don't worry about it. But for those of you who do, it's going from $1,600 to $1,800, and if the Senate passes it, we don't know if that's going to happen yet. Now, there is another piece in there where they're going to index the child tax credit starting, I think it's in 25, where they're going to start making it go up with inflation. We'll worry about that once they pass the tax bill, and I'll explain all that once we actually have hard facts. So that's the child tax credit. But there's some other things in here that I want to go through real quick, and these are mostly related to business owners. So for you business owners, bonus depreciation has been really nice. We just automatically got to write off a lot of different things 100% in the first year, and we didn't even have to worry about Section 179. Now, I'll be honest, most of my clients don't hit the limits on Section 179. So even though they reduced the bonus depreciation by 20%, if it makes sense for us to Section 179 the asset, we're going to get to basically the same thing. So if you're a small business owner, we're working on your return, we're watching this, we're aware of it, and we'll help you make those decisions. So once again, don't worry about it. No need to hold off filing your returns because we can handle it on the return through 179. If you bought a bunch of assets, then we may need to look at it a little differently. But for most of you, most small business owners, they just don't hit those limits. And if you do, then you need to be working with your tax professional a lot closer than watching a video and work out the details on that. But for most of you, you're going to be okay. But I mean, the 179 limit was $1.25 million basically. So if you bought less than that, this isn't going to bother you. Bonus depreciation is reduced, but we can manage it through Section 179. Now, that takes care of most of what really matters in this bill. There's also a massive section. It seemed like when I read it, 2/3 of it was on Taiwan. Doesn't affect most of you, so we're not going to waste time on that. And then there is a section in there on the ERC. Those of you who received that for your business during the COVID pandemic are aware of it. Some of you got a significant amount of money. This bill is ramping up the penalties to go after those bad actors that talked people into getting it that didn't really qualify. And the penalties are going to be severe if they get this through. They've also are trying to get the statute of limitations removed from 3 years to 6 years, which means they have twice as long to try to catch all the cheats. I personally hope the cheats get caught, but I hope this part of the bill doesn't go through, because from a small business perspective, if we're going through audits 6 years from now for things that happened in the pandemic, and then people have to try to pay back money they don't have anymore, this could just be a huge, huge lead weight on the small business community. So we'll have to wait and see. Once it goes through the Senate, who knows what all will happen. One of the big hangups they had in there, and this is going back to the individual taxpayers, is the SALT tax. That's where in 2018 they limited the amount of state and local taxes we could deduct on our personal tax return on the Schedule A, state and local personal real estate property, to a 10,000 cap total. They were hoping to get that changed. It didn't get into this bill, but there's now another bill out there, and I think they pushed that through one of the sides of Congress last Friday night, moving it from 10 to 20. Once again, the other side has not yet passed it, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. If that does happen, that could impact some of you who itemize, and we'll have to watch for that. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I really don't like it when they try to change tax laws after the fact, where you can't do any tax planning and while we're in the middle of tax season. That really makes a mess. But they've done it to us before, and we just have to work through it. So we'll keep an eye on it. If that does happen, we'll let you know about that as well. There was also a section in there on the research and development credits. Not worried about that. We have plenty of time on those. My experience with any clients that I have that get the R&D credit, we usually don't get those done till summertime anyway. So we'll have plenty of time for them to either pass the bill or not pass the bill, and we'll know how to deal with that when the time comes. So I'm not going to waste any energy on that one. And then what most of you came for, do I need to wait on the child tax credit? I answered it for some of you, but the commissioner of the IRS came out last week and said, look, you don't have to wait. And actually, the bill has it written into it that the IRS is required, if they pass this, to go ahead and automatically send you the extra money if you qualify. So there's the short answer. Even if this bill passes and you did qualify for the additional child tax credit, the IRS is going to be required to send that out to you, and it says they're required to send it out as quick as possible. It's not the exact language, but that's basically what it says. And so don't worry about it. Let's file your return. Let's get your refunds coming if you have them. And then if you get additional, they're going to send it out to you pretty quick. Some people say 3 to 6 weeks. We'll have to wait and see. But based on what we saw in COVID, the IRS has learned how to do this, and so I wouldn't worry about it. When it comes to bonus depreciation, once again, same thing. We can work around that. The SALT tax happens, that we may have to go back and amend, but for most of you, it probably won't affect you either. So that's the short answer. Go ahead, don't worry about it. File your returns, and everything should be okay if the bill passes and we actually get real answers. I'll explain to you all that in another episode.